In January of 2020 began a massive run on guns. Millions and millions of new gun owners went out and waited in long lines for guns. And we entered into a gun shortage before we entered into an ammo shortage. And the gun shortage was fairly short-lived for the most part, but the ammo shortage went on for a couple more years. But gun prices didn't come down for a while. They stayed pretty high. And if you would have gone to a gun show, a lot of people were price gouging guns and people were paying for it. There was this feeling in 2020, especially when you went to a gun show or a gun store, that there was almost like a panic in the air. Like, I got to get a gun. I got to get a gun. I just want nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. So I actually stepped away. I didn't even go into a gun store until probably the fall of 2020. Just tried to avoid that whole thing altogether. Now, since then, obviously, you know, we're back to normal when it comes to guns, and we're back to normal when it comes to ammo. Prices need to come down a little bit more on the ammo, but guns have really kind of just held. They've come down and then they held. Not going up at all, really, for the most part. Some would argue guns seem to be inflation-proof, but a lot of that has to do with what we're seeing today, which is there's a massive, massive surplus of guns. Some would estimate around 130 million guns are in circulation in the U.S. for sale at different gun stores throughout the country. That's a huge number of guns for sale. Now, there's a couple reasons why. Let's start with more people are selling their guns to gun stores, pawn shops, that sort of thing, than are buying. You can walk into, probably not every, but almost any gun store in the United States right now in the fall of 2024 and ask them, are you selling or buying more guns lately? And they're probably going to tell you they're buying, or they quit buying simply because they just can't keep buying. They're buying more than they can sell. And I guess the right question would be, are more people coming in to sell than people coming in to buy? And I think they're going to say more people are coming in to sell guns than are buying guns. And I believe a lot of the reasons for that revolve around what took place in 2020 and 2021. There was, again, a massive rush on guns. And I think if people have settled over the last 3-4 years, they've kind of thought to themselves, maybe I don't need all these guns. You know, it's a similar reason why there's such a surplus of ammo. I haven't bought ammo. I mean, I maybe bought a box of 9mm in the last year, maybe. I'd have to think about it, but maybe not. I may have not bought any ammo in the last year because I stocked up. I had plenty of ammo. Most of you have plenty of ammo. You ask any gunner, they probably got plenty of ammo on hand. So there's not this need to go continue to stock up because you're stocked up. And if anything, you're just replenishing it as you practice. Now, the same thing really kind of takes place with guns. It's a very similar situation. People made a big rush on guns. Now they're thinking, well, I don't need all these guns. So they're trying to sell them. But in addition to that, we're living in this world where everything's more expensive. Most of us are making less than we were 4 years ago. And you put those two things together, and typically what that means is you got to sell some stuff to have a little money. And I believe maybe the final piece is that when there was this massive rush on guns, gun manufacturers started pumping them out. Because I remember going to SHOT Show in January and talking to different gun manufacturers, and they had all these new guns that were coming out in 2020. But by the time they got to March, all that stopped. And they were just focusing on pumping out the guns everybody wanted. So, these companies were just pumping out guns, mass producing guns in 2020 and 2021 specifically. An example of this was Sig Sauer announced in January in 2020 that they were going to bring out the P210 carry. And then spring came, no 210 carry. Summer came, no 210 carry. By the following January, SHOT Show was all online, because of lockdowns and stuff. It really, I'd say it just didn't happen at all. But we interviewed Sig Sauer and we're like, hey, where's the P210 carry? And they said, well, we just had to focus on what everybody wants. Their new guns had to just kind of collect dust, and they had to focus on pumping out, like the P320s, that 229s, things that everybody wanted in mass. So you had all these gun manufacturers pumping out tons of gun as well. So now you put all those things together. You had a mad rush on guns. Gun companies just pumping out tons of guns for a couple years. A lot of remorse once things went down. And then you have people need money, and you got to sell stuff to make some money sometimes. And I believe that as a result has caused us to have a massive surplus in guns in this moment. There you go. Any thoughts or insight on any of this, especially that insight, put it below. Do you want to take a moment and say, if you feel called to support this channel through Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of the channel, we take prayer requests. So don't ever, ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.